Should doctors be banned from striking? 020 7862 2222. Give us a call. The Conservative Party leader, Kemi Badenoch, says the current industrial action is going too far. Her party would stop doctors from walking out. Have a look at this post on social media. Doctors hold lives in their hands. No one should lose critical healthcare because of strikes, but that's what's happening now. That's why a Conservative government led by me would ban doctors' strikes, just like we do with the army and the police. So, yes, she's right. Police, the military, prison officers are banned from taking strike action under the 1992 Trade Union and Labour Relations Act. The Tories would amend this to include doctors. At the moment, thousands of resident doctors, formerly junior doctors, are taking part in a 5-day strike which began on Friday after the British Medical Association and the government failed to reach an agreement over pay. It's a difficult one for the Tories, this, Nelufar, isn't it? Because everything they suggest, people say, well, you had 14 years to do this.
Yeah, so that's probably going to be around for about another year before Starmer gets...
I think 10 years, probably, yeah.
Well, I mean, at some point we are going to have to move on, and the decisions of this Labour government are going to have much more of an impact than the indecisions of the last. I think that's what's really surprising here. First of all, I don't think her comments really mean or amount to anything because of how far she is from any sort of power or electoral win whatsoever. So she can, advocate for anything she probably wants to. It's interesting to me that she's come down so harsh on the doctors, especially when we have... we're hemorrhaging doctors in this country. It's almost impossible to keep doctors in positions as consultants or specialists in their field. There are many, many vacancies within the NHS of doctors, nurses and other staff who work in hospitals. So it feels really weird to go after them. I know why she has, because ultimately it's a group that the public like to keep an eye on, and
well,
there's a lot...
people, if they don't have doctors, you can't get your hip treated.
Yeah, so
that's why.
The main question here, if we go by of her sort of slightly bombastic assertion that we can't let them strike, what are the doctors striking for? More pay to do their jobs.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen many accounts over on TikTok and other social media where doctors are showing their pay slips versus what they would have got 10, 15 years ago. And there hasn't been much change in terms of what their take-home pay is. So do we care about doctors and keeping them...
22% rise last year.
Because you might not let them strike, but they will quit.
OK, Christian, what do you think?
Yeah, look, I think we need to. There was a bit of a taboo in this country for quite a while from doctors themselves about striking. Junior doctors' strikes, I think, basically only happened for the first time less than 10 years ago. And since then, they seem to have gone out on strike every other year. And I think it's a bit like naughty behaviour at school. Once you do it once and you get away with it, you'll go behind the bike shed and have a few more cigarettes. And unfortunately, we do need to stop. And it's astonishing. I never thought I would see a time where the public dropped support for paying doctors more. But it's happened. If you look at the polls, majority now don't want these strikes. A plurality say doctors are paid what they deserve. Which is very interesting, and I don't think it happened under the Tories, but people have seen what's happened. They got 22% last year, and now they've come back begging for a completely ludicrous, 29% or something. And, yes, OK, pay has not kept up with the 2008 rate of inflation, but it hasn't for any jobs across the board. We've all lost, actually. If we go by the BMA's, sums, the average worker in this country, private and public sectors, lost 14.3% in real terms. We can't...
Well, since the financial crisis,
that's just
wages have fallen.
Yeah, that's just what's happened. And we
can't
afford it.
That the average person isn't a doctor. That's the issue. We need doctors.
Yeah, Kemi Badenoch doesn't mind getting a raise herself year on year and has done for the last 15 because MPs have essentially...
Well, they vote for their own rises, yeah.
They don't vote for it, but there's a group that...
Well, pretty much.
No, IPSA give them the average of the public sector.
I'm giving her the benefit of the doubt here and saying that she couldn't possibly refuse her pay rise, but it just sounds really surprising for me to hear. Look, I hear the percentages and they do sound wild. 29% seems ludicrous. I would never go to my boss and ask for that kind of a pay rise. But then when you hear the numbers changing from a speciality doctor who's been there for training for over a decade, going from 73,000 to 90,000, doesn't seem unreasonable, does it?
Well, if those numbers are correct, because these numbers are being traded like crazy now.
But the other thing is that the amount of doctors that we hear, or who are, and I agree, we need to have more doctors and nurses. but we've got loads that get trained up, basically subsidised degrees, and they are subsidised, even though they pay student loans, they are subsidised by the taxpayer. They get trained up for years, and the moment they graduate, they're going off to Australia. They're going off to Dubai.
Do you know why they're going there?
Because they get more money.
More.
But why is that?
We're having a circular debate.
Because they have different healthcare systems. And it's interesting that the same doctors who would oppose any reform of the NHS because it smells a bit like privatisation are more than happy to go abroad to privatise healthcare countries because it gives them more money. And
Cynthia,
maybe if the NHS was different, we could afford
Cynthia's in Staffordshire. Hi, Cynthia.
Hello, Jeremy. Good morning.
Good morning. Do you think the government should ban them from striking?
Yes, I do. I do. I come from Canada, and we have to pay for pretty much everything. And it's not like here. We are so blessed with wonderful doctors, and we depend on these people. We are paying their wages. And when you go into a job as a doctor or fireman or police, we depend on this. If we didn't have the police, or what would we do? Who do we depend on? I realize these people work so hard.
But you're talking about the Canadian example is interesting because your doctors in Canada are paid a lot more. Australia are paid a bit more. New Zealand are paid about the same as our island, as I understand. So we're not totally out of adrift from those pay rates. But yeah, Canada is a good place to be a doctor.
Well, it is, but as far as being a patient, not having a doctor, who do we turn to? Those kind of, it's an emergency service. Now, after COVID, it is really hard to get into the doctor without phoning and your caller number 59. Would you caller number 54 the day before, which is cool.
Would you stop British doctors striking?
Well, yes.
You would?
Yes.
Thank you, Cynthia, very much. Heather in Hampshire, would you stop British doctors striking?
Yes, I would. And I'd also like to say that the training for all medical staff is very expensive for the country, very expensive. And I think when they start their training, they really should sign some sort of legal document to say that they will complete a certain number of years once they're qualified to pay back. And if they don't, then they've got to refund the country the cost of their training. That's my point.
Yeah, and you mean the in-hospital training rather than a degree, do you? Because I suppose if they pay for their degree and they leave.
No, whatever is deemed reasonable.
Okay. So, yeah, thank you. The thing is that the last government did say we are going to stop doctor striking. Remember, they said that. And that caused another strike. So they actually had to back down on it.
Yes.
And that's one of the problems here.
The basic rate of pay for a doctor, especially in their first year, is so low that the majority by the way, they have to pay for things that you would never think about. So, for example, every exam they take, they have to pay for out of their own pocket. Their parking isn't free. They don't get a lunch bursary or anything like that. There are no perks to being a doctor. I understand. I think Heather's right. That does feel a bit like, hold on a minute, am I being shortchanged here, paying so much for these doctors to be trained only for them to wander off to, I don't know, the UAE, for example, to work for a huge surplus? The problem is doctors aren't the same as police officers. They're not the same as correctional officers because that is not a job. It's a vocation. It's a job you choose to do. And if we don't pay them enough, they will go off somewhere else and get paid more.
Which is the vocation, being a doctor?
For sure, yeah.
But you don't go on strike if you're doing your vocation, do you?
No, but they're not an essential service in the sense that we do have minimum basic levels of care even when doctors go on strike. I feel like it's important to say that. Not all doctors can strike all at once.
They're not an essential service until you need a new knee.
Yes, and I understand that. But if they can't afford to give you a knee because they can't afford to live in the area they've been told to go to, then we have a bigger problem.
I mean, in the end, maybe we just have to let them buy off the strike with 29%, Christian, and just say, look, we surrender here.
What message does that? And also,
there's no other category.
The rest of the public sector will be feeling actually very aggrieved because not only did they get that 22% last year, they got 5.4% earlier this year, which was the most of all public sector workers, and yet they're still not happy.
And
do you know what? A teacher or a police officer.
I'll give you a thought to close with. Look at what happened in Birmingham when the bin people there said, wait, we want some... And they brought the city to a standstill. OK, after the break, it's the...